The riverlands slept fitfully beneath a bruised sky, lantern light quivering on the black glass of the tumblestone as if the very water feared to stir. A hush had fallen after the roar and clash of the battle of the camps. Yet the silence was a brittle thing, crackling with unseen fractures. Campfires dotted the fields beyond Riverrun's walls like scattered embers on a giant's dark cloak. Each breeze sent sparks whirling up, dying before they reached the indifferent stars. Catelyn Stark watched from a narrow balcony on the water tower, her fingers curled around cool stone. Below, the river's double course murmured, and the muted clang of distant smithies drifted across the night. Somewhere in the maze of tents near the eastern ford, Jaime Lannister lay shackled. His gilded armor stripped away, his pride bound tighter than any chain. Robb had promised the men that the Kingslayer would answer for Ned Stark's death when the war was won. The bannermen howled for it, their voices thick with northern thunder. Yet Catelyn's mind settled not on vengeance but on her daughters, whose faces flickered in her memory like candles guttering in a draught. Sansa's solemn reserve, Arya's quicksilver grin. Both imprisoned in King's Landing, both pawns in a game none of them had chosen. A feather-soft tread sounded behind her. She did not turn. She knew the rhythm of those steps. Brynden Tully, her uncle, came to stand beside her, folding arms that still bore the scent of horse sweat and river mud. "The camp's quiet at last," he said, voice low, half a question. "For now," she answered. "Peace in war is but the pause between heartbeats." He accepted the thought with a grunt. "Edmure has riders out scouting the Lannister remnants. Tywin's host lies south on the Green Fork. Jaime is our only coin to buy your girls back. Cat. A heavy purse. Jaime. Coin. Daughters." The words revolved in her head like stones in a sling, gathering momentum. "When Robb first raised his banners," she said, "he did so to free Father, to free me, to exact justice for Bran and Rickon. Now Father lives, but our girls remain lost. Every day Sansa bends the knee to the boy who ordered their Lord Father slain. Every night Arya sleeps, seven nowhere. Justice will not warm their beds or shield their hearts." Brynden's mustache twitched. "Justice is seldom kind. Nor swift," Catelyn whispered. "If we send them Jaime, the Queen may yet listen. She loves him as fiercely as any mother loves her child. The Queen loves herself, and the mirror of herself that is her brother," Brynden said, but gently, as if cautioning an eager squire. "You would gamble your son's bannermen, his crown, on Cersei Lannister's mercy? I would gamble everything," she said. "Save their lives." A scrape of rough breath left the Blackfish. "Speak to Robb before you do what your eyes betray." She nodded, though the weight on her chest did not lift. Dawn rose in blood-streaked bands over Riverrun. Robb's war council broke bread in the great hall, stewed trout and oat bread, the air thick with wood smoke and damp wool. Lord Rickard Karstark glowered across the table, his grief for his slain sons smoldering hotter than the hearth fire. Roose Bolton observed from the shadows, eyes pale and unblinking as moonlit ice. Great John Umber drained a horn of ale in a single swallow, then slammed it down hard enough to rattle trenchers. Catelyn waited until the talk turned from supply wagons to prisoners. She rose, hands clasped. "My lords," she began, "I would speak of Jaime Lannister." A hush fell, taut as a drawn bow. Robb set his cup aside. "Go on, mother. We won a great victory, but war is more than battles. We fight for our people, for the living flesh and blood who bear our name. While the Kingslayer lies chained, King's Landing holds Sansa and Arya still. I ask that we send Jaime to the Queen, under solemn pledge for my daughter's safe return." She felt each gaze like a blade. Karstark's mouth twisted. "Send my son's murderer home wrapped in flowers? I'll have his head, or I'll take it myself." Others nodded. The Great John thumped the table. "Split the lion's skull and drink his brains. That's the song the North will sing." Roose Bolton spoke last, voice smooth as skin peeled from a fresh kill. "Ransom is the coin of lords, not small folk. Yet the lady speaks to a mother's heart. Still, we cannot know Cersei's heart." Robb's gray eyes moved from lord to lord, measuring. "We'll keep him, At least until we have fuller word from King's Landing of father's fate. The sting of that memory darkened his tone. Ned Stark's death had not yet come to them, but whispers rode every raven. Catelyn bowed her head. The council resumed. Yet she heard only the rush of her own pulse, the thunder of hoofbeats down some road not yet taken. That night she crept to the cellars under the east tower where Jaime was kept. Torches hissed against damp stone. 2 guards stiffened at her approach. At a nod from Ser Cleos Fry, they stepped aside. Blood of lion and trout mingled in Cleos's veins, yet fear made him meek. He unlocked the iron door, lips moving in silent prayer. The cell stank of straw and stale sweat. Jaime sprawled against the wall, chains about his ankles and wrists, hair a matted curtain of tarnished gold. Even haggard, he wore arrogance like armor. "Lady Stark," he drawled, as if greeting a paramour in some Lannisport bedchamber. "Come to admire the hero of the Whispering Woods? I came to see a father." Her lantern cast bars of light across his face. "Do you love your children, Ser?" He snorted. "Leave sentiment to singers, my lady. I love myself. Is that not clear? You do them poor service, then. And your sister, how does she fare?" At Cersei's name his gaze sharpened. "What do you want?" "A promise," Catelyn said. "Words to trade for my daughters." Laughter pealed from his throat, harsh and bright. "Words? I sell my sword, Lady Stark, not my tongue." She stepped closer until the lantern glow warmed his cheeks. "Swear an oath. Swear by the 7, by your father's honor, by your sister's love. Swear you will see them delivered unharmed." He studied her, woman of grief-worn lines, of storm-blue eyes. "And if I break such a vow, then the gods will judge you." She swallowed. "But I think you will keep it, for love of her." Silence fell. At last he said, "Fetch the septon, and I will speak the words you crave. Set me free, and I will carry them to King's Landing." She left the lantern with him and climbed the stairs, heart hammering. 3 nights later the moon hid behind clouds. Rain misted down, soft as breath on glass. In the stables, a single lantern bobbed as she readied 2 horses. 1 black courser for Jaime, 1 sure-footed palfrey for Ser Cleos, whom she had pressed into escort. Her hands trembled. With each buckle drawn tight, she cinched another knot about her own future. Once loosed, this deed could never be unmade. Jaime emerged in a plain cloak, chains gone, wrists raw beneath leather cuffs. Ser Cleos guided him forward, eyes darting like minnows. Nearby, the black river whispered of secrets and carry-me-aways. "Go," Catelyn said. "Ride hard, ride true. Bring my daughters home." Jaime swung into the saddle with cat-like grace. "And if I send you Sansa but not Arya, will half a vow suffice?" "That is between you and your conscience," she answered. "Then we are both damned," he said, and heel-tapped the courser into motion. The pair vanished into drifting rain, hoofbeats fading toward the western road, toward the King's Road, toward fate. Alone beneath the arch of the gatehouse, Catelyn Stark released a breath that seemed torn from her very ribs. She felt no relief, only a hollowness widening within, as if she had opened a door onto night and invited the dark inside. Morning broke with trumpet calls and outrage. Lord Karstark stormed through Riverrun's halls like a bull in autumn rut. Gretchen's roar carried clear across the courtyard. "She loosed the lion. Where is she?" Men scrambled, swords half-sheathed, tempers half-tethered. Robb found her in the Godswood, kneeling by the heart tree whose red leaves wept in still air. Rain had traced silver paths on her cheeks, yet her eyes were dry. "Mother," he said, voice ragged. "Tell me you did not." She rose slowly. "For your sisters, I did. For your father's honor. For all our hopes." Stag-shadowed rage flickered in him, but grief drowned it. "You have robbed me of my hostage, betrayed my bannermen, imperiled the realm I fight to build. I have given you a chance at peace," she said. "1 life for 2, a fair bargain." Robb shook his head. "It is not only life that buys peace. It is fear. Fear of our wrath kept Walder Frey in line, kept Lannister swords wary. Now they will think us weak. They will think us human, she whispered. Footsteps rustled in wet grass, Roose Bolton approaching on silent feet. The Leech Lord bowed shallowly. Your Grace, our outriders report 2 riders on the Western Road, a day ahead. One fits the Kingslayer's description. Robb's jaw clenched. Recall every scout. We pursue. Bolton's pale eyes gleamed. As you command. When the Lord had gone, Catelyn touched her son's arm. Your father once taught Bran to keep his balance on a tower wall. The trick is to look forward, he said. Never down. Look forward, Robb. Look to the day your sisters come home. He stared at the Hearttree's bleeding face and said nothing. Jaime rode hard. Rain hounded him south along the Red Fork, strips of silver that blurred the world into moving watercolors. Cleos Frey tried to set a measured pace, citing sore mounts and road fatigue, but Jaime pressed on, spurred by mingled dread and exhilaration. Freedom tasted of wet leather and wind-whipped hair. Under a willow by the Trident they paused to water the horses. Cleos rubbed his mount's lathered neck. Your sister will not thank me for bringing you back, he muttered. She wished you safe at Casterly Rock. Cersei wishes me wherever her temper blows, Jaime said, though a pang stabbed him. Tell me, cousin, when a man escapes a cage, does he curse the lock or kiss the key? Cleos blinked. I suppose he rides fast and prays the lock stays open. Jaime laughed, and for a breath rain tasted like triumph. Yet beneath triumph lurked unease. The vow he had sworn to Catelyn echoed. Deliver both girls, whole and unharmed. Cersei would likely grant Sansa, whose value dwindled with Ned Stark's head. Arya, wild wolf girl, had slipped from the Queen's net long ago. How to offer what he did not possess? He pictured Catelyn's eyes, river deep with grief, and felt a chink in the armor of his contempt. Night fell. They camped among alder trunks, small fire hooded from prying eyes. Jaime's dreams swirled with crimson petals and the ring of swords. He woke before dawn, hand reaching for the sword no longer at his hip. Freedom, he reminded himself, is its own blade. Back at Riverrun, tempests brewed. Lord Rickard Karstark withdrew 300 lances from Robb's host, vowing never again to fight beside Oathbreakers. The Great John smashed a wine keg against a parapet, declaring that only the blood of a Lannister could wash the stain away. Roose Bolton counseled deliberation, mouth curling like a cat's whiskers. Your enemies will judge you by the swiftness of your justice, he told Robb. An example might be required. Whispers spread. Lady Catelyn would be confined, perhaps sent north to Winterfell's safety. She bore their stares with quiet resolve, though each murmur scraped her raw. She withdrew to her chamber overlooking the Godswood, and there wrote letters, one to Lisa in the Eyrie, another to White Harbor. She begged loyalty, begged time. Maester Vyman brought word of ravens from the capital. Ned Stark had been executed for treason. Joffrey Baratheon sat the Iron Throne. Sansa remained hostage, Arya's fate unknown. The words carved deep. Robb's war cry shook the hall that night. King in the north. Lords rose chanting, swords beating shields. Yet for Catelyn each voice rang hollow, the anthem of widows-to-be. Jaime and Cleos reached the ruins of the Ruby Ford, where rain speared from the riverbed like broken teeth. Smoke smudged the sky ahead, a burned village left by Ser Gregor's foragers. On the charred gatepost hung a child's body, crows chattering in his ribs. Cleos gagged. Jaime stared, jaw locked. What oath binds them? Cleos whispered. The oath of terror, Jaime said. Tywin's justice rides on a red stallion. He pressed on, but the child's hollow eyes rode with him. At Harrenhal's black towers they found Root and Hoat feasting on marrow. Jaime refused their offer of girls and ale, took only fresh horses, then spurred away before dusk. He slept less, spoke little, the vow dragging behind him like a chain. In the Riverlands Robb pursued, but rain swelled every creek into a flood, and scouts returned empty-handed. Some said the Kingslayer passed Duskendale. Others swore he lay dead in a ditch. Robb sent ravens to the Eyrie, to White Harbor, to Storm's End. He reached for allies, but each letter cost more coin than he minted, more faith than he owned. One night he confronted his mother. If Jaime reaches King's Landing and Sansa is not freed, if Cersei sends us naught but lies, what shall I do then, mother? Where will your bargain be? Then we fight on, she said, though the words tasted of ash. But let us not bleed for a chance never taken. He turned away, shoulders rigid, and she felt him slipping beyond the reach of her arms. Beyond the Blackwater, the red keep spires glinted like spears of dawn. Jaime and Cleos crossed into the city at nightfall, cloaks drawn. Gold cloaks at the gates recognized the Kingslayer's face and saluted with awe and unease. Word of his capture had long paraded through taverns. His sudden resurrection smelled of sorcery. They passed silent through torchlit alleys to Maegor's Holdfast. Servants scattered before them like ravens from a corpse. At the Queen's apartments, guards opened doors but dared not announce him. Jaime stepped into the solar as Cersei looked up from a map, a quill poised like a dagger in her hand. For a heartbeat they stared mirror images. Same green-gold gaze, same sculpted mouth. Then her quill clattered. She crossed the room in 2 strides and seized him, nails biting his shoulders, lips crushing his. Cleos retreated, crimson-faced. "You're alive," she breathed. "How?" "Stark mercy or stark folly," Jaime said. "They traded me for our hostages." Cersei stiffened. "Which hostages?" "Sansa, Arya." Cersei's laughter spilled, ripe with scorn. "Arya vanished in the muck of Flea Bottom. We've hunted half a year. The oath I gave demands both." "Oaths?" She brushed golden hair behind her ear. "When did oaths ever fetter you, dear brother?" He thought of that child at the gatepost, of Catelyn's eyes pleading across iron bars. "Some things change," he said. She studied him and saw the change, or perhaps only the threat of it. "Leave me. We will speak after court." When the door closed, Jaime felt cold despite the brazier's blaze. He had crossed battlefields, rivers, sorrows, but here in the Red Keep lay the deadliest field. A court of whispers where love itself was a poisoned blade. 2 days later, a raven left King's Landing bearing Cersei's seal. It winged north above rain clouds, above burned fields and pillaged hamlets, carrying a single parchment: Sansa Stark's release, to be delivered at Maidenpool upon safe passage. There was no mention of Arya. The bird never reached Riverrun. A crossbow bolt felled it near Derry, and Roose Bolton's man gathered the message from the mud. By dusk it lay in Bolton's pale hands. He read, eyes gleaming like knives catching sun. That night he summoned Lord Karstark, cloth-shrouded scroll between them. Their words were soft, sibilant, secret as damp moss beneath stones. By dawn horses were saddled, riders sent, some north, some east. A new song began, inaudible yet to Robb Stark, the whisper of betrayal threading through campfires, through tents where wounded men groaned, through dreams where wolves howled at unseen foes. Jaime stood before the Iron Throne in gilded mail. Joffrey lounged atop the cold blade and bone seat, one leg thrown across an arm, his crown tilting in insolent ease. The hall smelled of dust and perfumed fear. "My uncle returns," the boy king announced. "Ser Jaime, how fares captivity?" "Enlightening, your grace," Joffrey sneered. "Will you enlighten us on how my mother proposes to ransom a wolf bitch for?" Cersei's voice sliced through. "Enough. The council is convened. We will speak of war, not kennel disputes." Jaime's gaze swept the faces. Grand Maester Pycelle, Lord Varys, Peter Baelish smirking. Each weighed him anew. He felt chains invisible as vows tighten. After, in the White Sword Tower, Ser Boros and Ser Meryn stared as he donned a fresh cloak of the Kingsguard. Its snowy folds smelled of cedar and cold ash. He fastened it with a brooch shaped like a hand, Lord Commander's badge, though Barristan Selmy still lived in exile. Power shifted like sand, vows bent like reeds. At sunset, he walked the ramparts overlooking Blackwater Bay. Ships bobbed below, sails furled like broken wings. He remembered flames and wildfire yet to come, choices yet unmade. A soft tread, Varys. The spider's smile fluttered. The realm rejoices at the return of its golden sun. The realm rejoices at scraps, Jaime said. Some scraps taste sweeter than feasts, Varys mused. A Stark daughter, perhaps? A wafer to sate northern hunger. I need both girls, Jaime murmured. Need is a blade that cuts the hand holding it. Varys spread plump fingers. Yet perhaps the little wolf lost may be found, if hounds are loosed with silver collars. You offer help? I offer possibilities. His eyes glittered like beetle wings. But every road asks a price. Jaime turned away, the bay wind tugging his cloak like a child begging notice. Below, waves slapped stone. Above, ravens traced black runes across dying light. In Riverrun's great hall, Robb read the intercepted letter. Sansa at Maidenpool, a fortnight hence. Silence broke only when Karstark stepped forward. Only one, he growled. Your lady mother's folly bears its teeth. Will we pay another daughter for a broken oath? Catelyn whispered. Arya may yet be found. Found? The Lord spat. Or buried. Robb's gaze lifted to banners on the walls. Direwolf, trout, sunburst, flayed man. Threads of alliance frayed before his eyes. We march east, he said. We take Sansa under our own guard. If the queen withholds Arya, we will see to it at spear point. Great John cheered. Others muttered. Roose Bolton bowed, expression unreadable. That night Catelyn knelt before her son. Forgive me, she said. I acted a mother, not a counselor. He touched her hair. I have never doubted your love. Only the world it must dwell in. Tears threatened, but she blinked them back. 9 days later, Robb's vanguard reached Maidenpool's cracked walls, only to find Lannister banners flying and the docks swarming with cell sails. Sansa Stark waited beneath guard in the Lord's tower, pale and silent, her eyes hollow as moon craters. She fell into her mother's arms, trembling whispers of father and Septa Mordane, of songs turned to screams. Arya was nowhere. The queen's message awaited. The younger wolf has slipped your leash. Hunt her if you can. I tire of the game. A seal of red wax bore the lion's head, mocking. Robb ordered the town held, yet word came. Swift that Tywin Lannister rode from Harrenhal with 20,000, teeth bared, hungry for retribution. Stark banners withdrew north, Sansa bundled in furs though the air still smelled of summer rot. Behind their host, small fires dotted the road where stragglers were cut down. Once, at dusk, Catelyn saw a sigil among the corpses, a flayed man on pink field. She felt ice bloom in her veins. In the Red Keep, Jaime learned of Maidenpool's bloodless exchange, of Stark retreat, of Tywin's advance. He climbed to Cersei's balcony overlooking the city, found her sipping arbor red. You gave them Sansa, he said. A husk. Cersei shrugged. The little bird is broken. She will peck no more. And Arya, if the gods favor us, dead beneath some tanner's cart. She brushed lint from her sleeve. Our father will carve a bloody road to the twins. The north will howl, then kneel. Jaime crossed to the balustrade, hands gripping cold marble. I swore the girls would be delivered. Cersei's laughter chimed like glass struck by a dagger's hilt. You swore, dear heart, not I. He turned. Do you mock me? I cherish you. She traced a finger down his cheek. But I will not yield the realm's safety to your newfound chivalry. We play for crowns, not for dreams. For an instant he saw her, golden, fierce, unreachable, as she had stood the day they pushed Bran Stark from a window. The past closed around him like that window's frame, offering only one choice. Hold fast or let go. He kissed her hand, tasting wine and danger. I must ride, he said. Arya may yet live. I will find her. To what end? Cersei's eyes narrowed. One wolf pup more or less. To keep my word. He stepped back. And perhaps to find the man I once thought myself. She said nothing as he left. Behind him, the city pulsed like a wound. Storms rolled across the Trident. Rivers swelled, roads sank. Robb's army foundered in mud, carts spilling grain to rot. Scouts vanished. Sansa rode with Catelyn in a covered wagon, silent save for soft sobs at night. Each league north felt a lifetime. At Old Stones, Roose Bolton petitioned council. "Split our forces. I will lead a swift column west to Harry Tywin. By time for the main host." His pale eyes glittered. Great John objected. Karstark laughed. Yet Robb consented, desperate for maneuver. Bolton's men slipped away at dawn. Catelyn watched their banners fade into mist, a shiver crawling her spine. That evening a raven arrived from the twins. Lord Walder Frey demanded Robb's presence to amend the broken marriage pact. Another chain yanked tight. Robb clenched the letter. "Every step forward drags me two back." Catelyn met his gaze. "Hope lies not in roads but in hearts. Keep yours true, my son." He tried to smile. East of Maidenpool, Jaime rode alone save for 3 river knights sworn to House Derry. Blackened farmsteads whispered past, each one a question. Did Arya Stark pass here? At a mill he found a girl's footprints, too small, wrong size. At a burned sept, a wooden practice sword charred beyond shape, yet hope flickered. He rode through the hollow of Sow's Horn on the day a wolf pack stalked a wounded elk. He watched the beasts fall upon their quarry, saw the elk's antlers shred one wolf's flank before the rest dragged it down. Jaime spurred past, but the dying animal's bellow trailed him like accusation. Near salt pans he rescued a butcher's boy from marauders. Cut 2 down, let the 3rd flee. The boy's thanks sat oddly on his ears. He recalled Bran Stark's terror on the tower ledge and felt something shift. At night he dreamed of wildfire beneath King's Landing, of a king mad with fear, of a single sword point pressing a throat as voices screamed. He woke gasping, hand on phantom steel. "Good men and good deeds," he muttered to the dark, "may yet forge new names." Winterfell's ravens brought grim tidings. Theon Greyjoy had betrayed his prince. The castle burned, Bran and Rickon missing, perhaps slain. Catelyn read the message beside a smoking campfire and felt the world tilt. Sansa collapsed in her arms, sobbing for brothers lost. Robb heard and roared, a lion's rage in a wolf's throat. Karstark knelt, face carved from stone. "The gods take sons and give grief. Now you see, my king." That night Karstark slipped into the tent where 2 Lannister squires lay captive. By dawn their blood soaked the grass. Robb ordered Lord Rickard seized, yet the man's followers drew swords. The camp spun to chaos, alliances cracking like ice on spring rivers. Bolton's riders returned, not to reinforce, but to encircle. Flayedman banners rose beneath morning sun, red on pink like skin stripped fresh. Catelyn's heart clenched. She knew then the full cost of broken vows. "Your Grace," Roose Bolton announced, "the Lannisters bid me bring them your head, yet our bargain is richer. Deliver the king in the north, and I sit warden of the north beneath Casterly peace." Steel flashed, wolves howled, men died. Catelyn pushed Sansa toward the wagon driver. "Ride," she cried. "Ride for the neck, for White Harbor. Find Jon at the wall if none else." Sansa clung, but Catelyn shoved. Arrows hissed overhead. Thunder of hooves, screams of horses, clash of sigils rubbed raw by war. In the swirl of betrayal, Catelyn seized a fallen spear and called Robb's name, but smoke swallowed her voice. She saw him atop gray wind, sword red, banners collapsing like broken wings. Her story could not end here, she vowed. Not while one child lived. Along stony coast roads Jaime pursued rumor of a ragged band led by a girl in wolf's cloak. He tracked them through villages where crimes of war painted doorposts in blood. Atop a ridge he finally beheld them crossing a misty meadow. Small forms, one brandishing a wooden sword, another a helm too large. He spurred down. The children scattered like sparrows. He dismounted, arms raised, calling Arya. A boy lunged with a rusty dagger. Jaime parried with open hand. "I mean you no harm." A girl stepped forward, dirty face, eyes gray as rain on slate. "Why do you know my name?" Jaime knelt. "I swore an oath to your mother." Her gaze skewered him. Oaths are wind. My father kept the king's peace and lost his head. Pain flickered. I am not the man who watched that, he said. Not anymore. Wind stirred grass. Somewhere a hawk screamed. At last Arya Stark lowered her wooden sword. Take me to Robb, she said, and swear again you won't leave me till I stand before him. Jaime drew a dirk, pricked his palm, let blood bead on steel. I swear, he said, voice low. The children watched, awe mingled with fear. In that moment, rain began cleansing cold. The riverlands burned behind them. Ahead, night stretched vast. Yet a single promise cut through shadow, guiding step and hoof alike toward whatever battlefield, whatever throne, whatever reckoning awaited. And so the tale wound onward, of mothers and sons, of vows kept and broken, of wolves in winter and lions in twilight, each heartbeat echoing the choice that Catelyn Stark had made beneath a weeping sky, the night she unfastened a chain and set hope galloping into the dark. The rain dissolved into mist along the salt-bitten shore road, a gray veil drifting between the travelers and the storm-dark sea. Jaime Lannister rode at the head of the ragged column. For children, 2 battered donkeys laden with stolen flour, and an ailing septon whose quavering hymns clung to the air like cobwebs. Arya Stark marched beside a dun-colored gelding she refused to mount. The horse, sensing her mood, kept its ears half-laid and its eyes rolling warily at every clash of thunder beyond the cliffs. Dawn had not yet broken, but in the east a thin flush of rose bled beneath the clouds, promising one of those riverlands days that grew hot as a smith's forge the instant the sun found a chink in the overcast. Jaime reined in atop a rise where the road curved away from the sea toward low hills smothered in bracken. From here he could just glimpse the skeleton of a burned mill, its charred beams jutting against the sky like accusing fingers. Crows haunted the ruin, restless silhouettes hopping from rafter to rafter. He waited until the children and donkeys caught up, then gestured toward a stand of twisted yews below. Water glimmered there. A shallow pond formed where winter floods had gouged a basin in the clay. Water, then breakfast, he announced. Arya's brow puckered. We can't tarry. Bolton men are hunting the camps. We saw their banners 3 villages back. They hunt deserters and scavengers, Jaime replied, swinging from the saddle. Not a wandering band led by the Kingslayer and a wolf cub. Don't call me cub. She thrust her wooden practice sword, a strip of ash shaved down to a blunt edge, into her belt and crossed to the pool. The youngest boy, Tom of Maidenpool, clambered after, clutching a satchel of half-crushed hickory nuts. Jaime watched them kneel and cup water in grimy hands, then turned his gaze inland, uneasy. He had no map but carried every road in these lands engraved upon memory like names in marble. North and east lay Maidenpool, now empty of lion banners. Farther north the King's Road wound toward the neck, where Frye Castle straddled the Green Fork. Robb Stark would have fled that way, Jaime guessed, for the twins offered the only crossing not submerged by summer floods. Yet, with Bolton's betrayal, the neck might be bolted tight as a miser's purse. Farther still waited Moat Cailin, a fortress of slag iron towers and snake pit bogs that could hold off 10 times Tywin's remaining strength. Jaime wondered if the Stark boy had the wit to fall back that far, and if the Lannisters possessed the patience to pry him out. His duty, though, was simple: deliver Arya, alive, unmaimed, unbroken, to her mother's camp. Duty. The word sat odd on his tongue. Once it had tasted bitter, a jest for dullards and dolts, but of late it pricked deeper than any sword point. Perhaps vows were nothing until a man bent his pride beneath them, until he felt the bone grind of lowering his head. He walked to the pond, kneeled, and drank. When he rose, he found Arya studying him, lips pursed. You know a secret way past the twins? Several, Jaime said. None safe. He sat on a sun-bleached log. Lord Walder Frye does little without coin or captive. We have neither to spare. I'll scale the walls, she muttered, frowning. You might at that. He suppressed a smile. But 4 children and a one-handed knight will fail where you succeed. We need another door. The septon cleared his throat. A wet, rattling sound. There are ferrymen, he offered. wiping fever sweat from his brow. Downriver, near Lord Harroway's town. Some still ply their trade if silver meets their palm. Silver we can find, Arya said. There's treasure enough on him. She jerked her chin at Jaime's hip, where a gilded pommel winked beneath travel-stained cloak. Oathkeeper. The name of the sword Bran Stark would one day remember or not, depending how this war turned. Jaime chuckled. Steel is treasure only to thieves with forges. He unbuckled the belt and laid the sword across his knees. Besides, lions pay their debts in gold, not in heirlooms. He freed the lion-headed pommel cap with a twist, appended it into his palm. A spill of gold coins clinked softly. The Septon's eyes widened, and Tom uttered a whistle. Seized from Ser Adam Marbrand's purse, Jaime said. 12 dragons. Enough to float a ferry, feed us for a moon, and bribe whatever Sellswords guard the crossing. Arya scooped a coin, bit its edge, and nodded approval. We go east, then south, then north, she said, tracing invisible lines on her palm. He imagined Robb Stark trying the same in his maps. Plans within plans, yet none accounted for the fickleness of men. We go, he agreed, but first breakfast. He broke a round of stale oatcake and offered half to her. She took it without thanks, tearing off a bite as if it had wronged her ancestors. While they ate, the youngest child, Podrick Payne's cousin, a girl called Willow, braided stray grass blades into a crown for the ailing Septon. The old man smiled, eyes milk-cloudy with fever, but sang no hymns. Jaime noted the flush on his cheeks. Septicemia, perhaps, from the sword graze on his thigh. He would slow them. Jaime wondered whether mercy lay in leaving him at a septri along the road. Wonder sickened him. They set off again by mid-morning, the children leading the donkeys while Jaime and Arya rode abreast. He taught her to watch the horizon, to scan hedgerows for glints of spear points, and to note wind-borne scents. Smoke, manure, forge fires, any sign of soldiers. She learned quick as wildfire, eyes darting, shoulders loose, ready. For each lesson he gave, she demanded a story of the Kingsguard, and he obliged. Barristan Selmy holding the bridge against Maelys the Monstrous, Gerald Hightower in the Stepstones, Arthur Dane at the Whispers. He spoke lightly, yet each tale reopened self-inflicted wounds, the memory of vows shattered in a flash of wildfire and madness. One night, camped beneath an overhang of sandstone beside a dry creek, Arya asked why he had turned against Ares. The sky wheeled overhead, a river of stars brighter than any torch. Jaime lay on his cloak, staring upward. Because, he said at last, I could not stand by while a king murdered his city to preserve his throne. What would you do if Joffrey tried the same? She pressed. Joffrey is dead. The words slipped out unthinking. Jaime flinched, half expecting an arrow from some unseen Lannister guard for speaking treason. No arrow came. Joffrey was dead, poisoned at his wedding in a timeline that might not yet exist here. But the rumor had flitted through whisper nets in King's Landing even before Jaime fled. The culprit changed with each telling. Tyrion, Sansa, Lady Olenna, Varys, the gods. Jaime suspected all and none. Arya studied him. If Tommen burned the city, Tommen wouldn't. He closed his eyes. But if he did, I would stop him. He hoped the promise meant something. Silent, Arya crept closer to the dying embers, feeding chips of driftwood until flame blossomed anew. The next dawn they reached the fork where the shore road bent inland toward Harrenhal. Jaime chose a lesser track east, skirting battle-scarred villages. At a roadside shrine hacked to splinters, they found a pair of hanged men with Bolton sigils flapping from their belts. Robbers, according to the crude signs scrawled in mud. Arya cut one down for firewood. Tom vomited at the sound of breaking rope. In the evening, they arrived at Lord Harroway's town to find the palisade gate unmanned and the docks hushed beneath drifting fog. Rotting fish stench clogged the damp air. Jaime led them down rickety steps to the riverbank where half-sunken skiffs creaked on frayed lines. A lantern bobbed in the murk. An old woman swathed in oilcloth, her back bent like a sickle. "Crossings be closed," she croaked. Storms took half our poles, and wolves the rest. Jaime dropped a gold dragon into her withered palm. Storms abate, poles regrow, and gold is quicker than wolves. He set another coin atop the first. 2 dragons buys silence. Her eyes glittered. Silence is dear. 3. He added a third. She glanced at the children, nodded once, then led them to a broad, flat-bottomed ferry moored away from the others. They boarded by torchlight, the deck slick with algae. 2 boys emerged from a cabin, hauled on ropes to guide the boat into midstream. The river carried them soundlessly beneath gauzy moonlight. Jaime kept a hand on Oathkeeper. Arya fingered her wooden blade. When they gained the far bank, the ferrymen vanished like wraiths. Lantern winked out. 3 gold dragons for 50 heartbeats of danger. Jaime wondered if Cersei would call that thrift or folly. They moved north through wetlands deafened by frog calls. Grass whispered against their boots. At dawn, a lank mist steamed from the fens, turning the world to pale secrets. The Septon collapsed then, pulse fluttering like a caged bird. Jaime knelt, felt the fever raging. "No more," he murmured. The children sobbed as he fetched his dagger. Arya stood rigid, jaws clenched. One quick thrust beneath the breastbone ended the old man's rattle. Jaime whispered a prayer he scarcely remembered and folded the grass over the body. The earth accepted the offering without thanks. They pressed on. The land rose into rolling drumlins patched with oak and beech. Scours of burnt stubble marked where Bolton outriders had foraged. Twice they hid from passing horsemen. Once a spear point glinted through fern 30 paces off before vanishing like a dragonfly. On the 4th evening they crested a high ridge and saw smoke pillars to the northwest, fat and oily against the sunset. "Fry torches," Jaime judged. "They drive peasants south to starve the flint cliffs." He unsheathed Oathkeeper, turning the blade until scarlet light slid along its length. "We're close." "What about the twins?" Arya asked. "Too risky. We'll ford the Green Fork downstream of Hag's Mire at twilight. There's a chain of islets." She snorted. "You think my brother will linger near Fry lands?" "No," he admitted. "But he must cross sooner or later, and Lord Walder will expect him at the bridge, not in the marsh." He blew out a breath. "Unless Bolton's trap has already shut." Lightning flickered beyond the horizon, a silent strobe. Jaime felt in his gut that something irrevocable had happened, the way a sailor feels a reef beneath black waters. He prayed, for the first time in years, that Catelyn Stark still breathed. They camped at the ridge foot. Wind soughed through spear tips of grass. An owl hooted thrice, then fell silent. Jaime lay awake while the children slept. Oathkeeper pressed cold against his thigh, a manacle of honor. He thought of Tyrion's laugh, of Cersei's scorn, of Tommen's soft eyes. He did not know how many kings a man might serve in one life, nor how many vows might coexist inside a single heart before it burst like a wineskin pierced by too many spears. At sunrise, they descended into the mire. Mist coiled around their ankles, warm and rank. The donkeys balked at the first mucky pool. Arya coaxed them with murmured oaths, patient and fierce. Jaime pushed aside reeds tall as a man, eyes peeled for serpents. By midday they reached the first islet, no more than a hump of sod above stagnant water. Frogs squelched underfoot like grapes in a cask. They pressed on to the next rise, and the next, water inching higher until boots squished. The children whimpered at leeches clinging to their calves. Near dusk they stumbled onto a hummock where 3 enormous black willows hunched over a trickle of current. Across that narrow ribbon of flowing water the land rose firm again, dotted with moss-plumed boulders. The Green Fork's main channel lay still beyond, but this side stream must lead to it. Jaime saw hoofprints in the mud, half-washed by rain. Wolves or horses. He crouched, touched one. Fresh, not a day old. Someone crossed here recently. Arya dropped to a knee, examining the print. For nailed horseshoes, Northmen, or North-hired sellswords. He scanned the trees. Keep quiet. They advanced single file. When the lead donkey slid on muck and braid, a chorus of caws burst from the willows, startled crows exploding into the sky. Jaime cursed under his breath. Moments later, a war horn blared to the east, 3 harsh notes, cut short.
Arya spoon.
Scouts. Her hand found the haft of her wooden sword. Hide. Jaime propelled the children behind a fallen trunk crusted in fungus. He crouched beside them, cloak draped over bright armor. The forest seemed to breathe. Drip, creak, rustle. Then horsemen emerged between trunks. A knot of 6, mud-spattered, mail gleaming dull. Their banners were tattered strips, but the sigil showed. Flayed man, red on pink. Bolton's riders. Jaime's pulse hammered. He counted their gear, crossbows, spears, knives. Experienced reavers. The mud couldn't mask the way they scanned tree lines, swords loose in scabbards. One unhooked a horn, preparing to blow again, when his horse balked at the scent of donkey. The rider wheeled, peering toward the hummock. Sunlight lanced through a rent in the clouds, glinting on Oathkeeper's pommel. "Run," Jaime hissed, shoving the children toward the stream. Arya darted first, boots splashing. Tom followed, then Willow. The rider shouted. Bolts snapped through leaves. Jaime lunged to intercept, sword alive in his grip. 3 steps carried him into their midst. The first rider swung a longsword. Jaime parried, riposte sliding between gorget and mail, slicing throat. Blood sprayed. The second thrust a spear. Jaime pivoted, hacked haft, angled blade up under the man's arm. The third drew a crossbow too near. Jaime punched pommel into his jaw, tore his attention away as a fourth circled to flank. He heard Arya scream behind, fear or defiance he could not tell. He pushed forward, momentum his ally, blade ringing off iron. Pain flared in his shoulder as a spear point grazed, slicing leather. He hissed, chopped the shaft, booted the rider from saddle. Mud gulped the man down. 2 remained. They wheeled, spurring horses abreast, lances couched. Jaime sprinted sideways, grabbed the fallen spearhead, and hurled it end over end. The broken iron buried in one horse's flank. The beast shrieked, reared. Its rider toppled beneath hooves, skull crunching. The last man, alone, wavered. Jaime stepped forward, sword low. "Go," he said. "Tell Lord Bolton the debt is owed." The rider snarled, raised his lance, but a flash of brown leapt from brush. Arya, wooden blade reversed like a club, cracked the horse's eye. The animal panicked, swerving into a tree. Its rider smashed face first into bark and slumped limp. Arya snatched a fallen crossbow, aimed at the twitching form. Jaime touched her wrist. "Enough!" She shook him off, loosed the bolt. It thunked into the man's thigh. He howled awake. "That's for my brother," Arya breathed. Jaime dragged her back toward the children. Tom sobbed. Willow hugged the donkey's neck. Moonlight now silvered the willow leaves. The forest reeked of blood and churned soil. "We move," Jaime said. "They'll send more." They waded deeper until water reached waists. The donkeys whickered, but Arya whispered old northern songs, and somehow the beasts followed. Once she slipped on slime, disappearing beneath the surface, and Jaime's heart stalled. She surfaced, sputtering curses. He grabbed her collar and half-dragged until they stood on the far bank gasping. Night swallowed the marsh as they clambered onto firm ground. Jaime found a hollow between boulders, concealed by a tumble of briar. They crawled inside, cramped but hidden. He bound his shoulder with a strip torn from tunic. Arya pressed moss to bruises on her shins, teeth clenched. "How many more like them?" she asked. "Enough to blanket the neck from shore to shore." He sheathed Oathkeeper with a sigh. "They'll scent us by dawn. We keep moving. We rest." He touched her arm. "You can't run on bones alone, girl." "I'm not." She caught his look, swallowed retort, and lay down beside Tom. The boy shook silently, staring at his blood-speckled boots. Arya draped an arm around him. "Sleep. Tomorrow you'll be a squire." Jaime watched them drift into uneasy slumber. He listened to frogs and distant wolves, and wondered which predators prowled in human skins this night. Before dawn they slipped from the briar, moving north again. Jaime's shoulder throbbed, but the wound was shallow. He favored it nonetheless, sword strapped across back instead of hip. Arya walked ahead, wooden blade traded for crossbow slung over shoulder. At midday, a line of standing stones rose from the sedge. Weathered runes carved in the first men tongue warned trespass, or welcome. Jaime could not read them. The children of the forest once danced here, Arya whispered. Old Nan told us. She placed her palm on the nearest stone, closed her eyes. The wind sighed through grass like breath through lips. Jaime felt a shiver, sudden and sharp. They skirted the circle. Hours later, they found a game trail that climbed ridges dappled with heather. From the summit, Jaime spied the green fork again, winding bright as a mirror broken into ribbons. Beyond, at the limit of vision, plumes of smoke rose. A camp perhaps, or a raised village. He chewed his lip. Bolton or Fry, maybe both, he muttered. Arya shaded her eyes. If my brother's alive, he'll head toward Moat Cailin. We should cut northwest. Across open ground? We'd be picked clean by hawks before we reached the barrows. She scowled. Better hawks than flayers. Perhaps. He turned. Something in his gut told him the game had shifted. Pieces toppled while they slept. He knew that scent. Fresh treachery. Sharp as blood on snow. We need news. Arya gestured at his lion-bright armor. Not many villages welcome lions. Then this lion will trade his hide for a sheep's, he said, removing the gilded rondelle from his chest. He dug in the saddlebags and produced the drab brigandine he had taken off a slain reaver near salt pans. He donned it over quilted doublet, hid Oathkeeper under oiled canvas. By dusk they reached a hamlet perched on stilts above a marshy inlet. Smoke curled from low chimneys. A solitary bell tolled. Mournful 6 beats, pause, 6 again. An old man huddled on the plankway repairing nets. Jaime hailed him as traveler. Any inns with stew this night? Only stew's what's left of us, the man rasped. He pointed to a shed beyond. Talk to Willow Heddle. They found Willow Heddle, a matron with arms like oars, in a tavern barely larger than a chicken coop. She served eel soup and barley ale thick with weevils. Jaime paid with silver, Fry coin minted in the Vale years back. She squinted but accepted. While children slurped broth, Jaime listened to talk. Freys massing at the Twins, Bolton banners sweeping east, Dragon Queen in the east said to have taken Meereen. Wild rumor but telling of restless tongues. Most striking, they say King Rob's dead, betrayed at the Twins. Mother too. A shepherd whispered it, clutching a chipped cup. Fry wedding feast turned red with blood. Jaime's stomach dropped. He pressed coin to shepherd's palm, demanded details. Fry crossbows, Bolton knives, Grey Wind's head sewn to Rob's body. Catelyn slit from throat to belly and thrown in river. The tale grew grisly with each sip. The inn's patrons muttered prayers to 7 old gods, R.H. Lore, any who'd listen. Arya had heard. Jaime saw how she gripped spoon, knuckles white. She stood and walked outside. He followed to find her on the plankway staring at black marsh water. They lie, she said, voice flat. Rumors. He could not believe it either. Catelyn dead? The iron in him resisted. Rumors spread like wildfire, burning truth and false together. We'll know soon. He was the young wolf. Her breathing hitched. He was winning. They cut off his head, they said. Her voice cracked. And my mother. Jaime placed hands on her shoulders. Listen, your mother is fierce as any lioness. She might yet live. Arya's eyes glittered in moonsliver light. If she's dead, I'll kill every Fry, every Bolton, every last man who watched. I'll give you my sword, he murmured, surprising himself. But vengeance can wait. First we find proof. She stared past him. Swear again you won't leave me. I swear, he said without hesitation. Inside, Willow and Tom slept by the hearth, bellies full. Jaime could not. He paced until dawn, mind churning. If Robb and Catelyn were slain, the war pivoted. Tywin would secure the north through Bolton vassalage. Fry would guard the neck. The girls became pawns of diminishing value. Arya might fetch bounty still, but Sansa, a widow some claimed, though rumors chilled on that front, perhaps less. Dawn brought no clarity. They left the hamlet under pewter sky, heading northwest toward the neck nonetheless. 3 days marched, through bogs where will-o'-wisps danced at dusk. Jaime's wound stiffened. Fever flirted, but he forced down willowbark brew stolen from a hedge witch's garden. Arya hunted frogs with a spear she fashioned from branch and knife. She fed the children off skewered meat roasted over coals. On the 6th day they came upon a refugee column. Small folk fleeing south, carts piled with straw beds and broken hopes. Jaime donned cloak hood and asked news. Red wedding, a tanner told him, hitching oxen. Northmen butchered like cattle. King dead, queen dead, direwolf's head on a pole. The phrase feast yet. Another swore Catelyn's corpse had been stripped and dumped into the green fork, where fish gnawed. Arya's face iced over. She walked beside the cart, staring at the mud until her feet bled. When they camped, she spoke little. Tom cried for home. Willow muttered nightmares. Jaime felt their world unravel, threads snapping one by one. He tried to imagine some path forward, deliver Arya to the Wall and Jon Snow. But Jon had taken vows. The Watch meddled not in realms' wars. Still, snow wolves might shelter her better than lion dens. He resolved to angle north to Queen's Crown, then east across the King's Road to Mole's Town. From there, Glover galleys sometimes sailed for Eastwatch. The plan lacked polish, but plans polished themselves on the stone of necessity. They crossed a ridge into pine forest. Snow fell, fine as dust, summer's last indignity. On the second night, they were hailed by a patrol beneath a black banner with white tower. Tall Heart survivors, escorting a remnant of garrison north. When their captain learned Arya's name, he knelt, tears bright on cheeks crusted with frost. Jaime stepped aside as the men swore fealty anew to House Stark's living heir. Arya accepted with stiff nod. That night she sat alone at the fire, Tall Heart's captain recounting the Red Wedding. Jaime listened from shadows, sickened. Walder Frey had played host then butcher, slaying guests beneath his roof, a crime the gods old and new would not forgive. Bolton knives had flayed thin the skin of honor, and Tywin's gold had greased it all. Jaime heard his father's voice. A good deed is good business. He spat into the snow. The Tall Heart swore to escort Arya to Bear Island, where Mormont women still held fast. Jaime's shoulders eased. Bear Island might shield her until northern houses rallied. Yet he also knew no castle stood immune to gold and fear. He argued for the Wall. Tall Heart argued for Deepwood Motte. Arya listened, silent, then said, "We ride for Winterfell. Winterfell's burnt ruin." Tall Heart protested. "It's my home," she said. "If ghosts haunt it, they'll know me." Jaime wanted to refuse, but vows choked him. Winterfell, then. 24 Tall Heart spears joined them. They moved north under slate skies. Jaime felt unarmored. Each step took him farther from debts he understood and deeper into wild oath-sworn promise. He wondered if Cersei guessed his path, if Tyrion still breathed, if Brienne hunted for Sansa in some tavern. The realm was a tapestry unraveling. He clutched one loose thread that happened to be a wolf girl's hand. Snow thickened. They wrapped children in cloaks, pressed on. At White Knife Ford they fought raiders wearing Bolton's flayed sigil. Arya killed one herself, crossbow bolt through eye. Jaime lost feeling in 2 fingers and feared rot, but saved the hand with hot wine poultice. In the half-buried village of Torrens Square, they found refuge among old women who remembered the young wolf and wept to see his sister. They gave bread and onions and rumors. Ramsay Bolton gathering men at the Dreadfort, Ironborn retreating to see Dragon Point, wildlings massing beyond the wall. At long last they approached Winterfell. The castle loomed broken against starless sky, walls scorched and gatehouse collapsed. Snow had cloaked the devastation, softening edges like a shroud. No banners flew, only ravens perched on shattered merlins. Tall Heart scouts reported no garrison, only ghosts. Arya stepped through the ash-crusted archway, breath frosting, eyes wide. Dead leaves rustled across yard. Wind moaned through burnt rafters. She walked to the god's wood. Jaime followed, boots crunching bones of charred timbers. The weirwood remained, trunk scorched but living, red leaves fluttering like torn banners. Arya knelt beneath its branches, hand pressed to shaggy bark. Tears traced grime down her cheeks. Jaime felt the stillness spread, as if time itself bowed to her grief. He thought of his own father's crypt at Casterly Rock, cold marble, colder heart, and envied her sorrow. After a long while she rose. "This is where I was born," she whispered. "This is where she'll find me." He frowned. "She? My mother?" She looked at him. "I don't believe she's dead." The wind gusted, scattering red leaves. "Even the old gods answer some prayers," Jaime murmured. That night they lit fires in the great hall's shell, flames dancing among toppled tables. Snowflakes drifted through holes in the roof to hiss on embers. Tall-heart men slept in shifts, wary. Jaime polished Oathkeeper with oil-soaked cloth until the blade shone bronze gold in firelight. Footsteps approached Arya, wrapped in bearskin cloak too large. She sat across from him, eyes reflecting flame. "You're not afraid of ghosts," she said. "I am one," he replied. She tilted her head. "I used to whisper names before sleep. Joffrey, Cersei, Island Pain, Polliver." She shrugged. "It helped." "Did it?" "Sometimes." She poked fire with charred brand. "What names do you whisper?" He stared at the blade. "Ares, Rickard Stark, Brandon, Elia of Dorne, Lyanna Stark." So many. He met her gaze. "One day I'll whisper mine." "Not tonight," she said, surprising him with a half-smile. "Tonight you live." He smiled back, faint. "Tonight I live." Snow fell heavier, muffling the world. Wolves howled across dark pine, their cries braiding with wind until distinctions blurred. Jaime sheathed Oathkeeper. He knew not what dawn would bring. Bolton siege, Frey demands, the march of gray men from beyond the wall. But he sat with a Stark beside a fire in the ruin of home, and felt, against all sense, honor stir like a phoenix rising from ash. Somewhere to the south, a corpse drifted in cold water, hair streaming like river weed, throat carved ear to ear. Somewhere to the east, dragons spread wings over barren sands, breath glowing. Somewhere to the west, a queen upon a lion throne smiled at the sound of ravens' wings. The game went on, board reset with every death. Jaime Lannister slept that night with sword at hand and vow unbroken, and dreamed, not of wildfire, nor of Cersei's golden hair, but of a weirwood leaf drifting on snow, red as blood, bright as truth. Morning brought footfalls crunching fresh snow. Tallheart's captain shook him awake. "Riders," the man whispered. "2 score at least, torches on the eastern approach." Jaime rose, heart hammering. Arya was already up, fastening boiled leather jerkin, crossbow slung. Snowflakes dusted her hair like frost. He followed to the battlement remains. Dawn's first pallor tinged sky, but torches bobbed through trees below. No banners yet visible. "We hold," Arya said, voice steady. Jaime gripped Oathkeeper's hilt. If Bolton's men came, they'd bleed before they captured this girl. He glanced sideways, saw defiance etched on her small face, saw ghosts of winter kings in her gray eyes. He felt suddenly certain that the North indeed remembered, and that memory's teeth were sharp. Hoofbeats drew nearer. Through parted pines emerged not flayed men, but riders cloaked in gray and white, their banners unfurled, a direwolf rampant, black on white. A horn sounded low and mournful, Winterfell's call. Arya sucked a breath. "Jon!" Jaime's pulse quickened. The lead rider dismounted, lifted helm. Tall, broad-shouldered, auburn beard streaked with snow. "Lord Davos," he muttered. "No, not Davos." He blinked. "Uncle Benjen?" Arya whispered, tears springing. "No, another illusion." The man stepped into torchlight. It was Lady Meage Mormont, armor caked with ice. She raised a fist. In the name of Lady Lyanna of Bear Island, open your gates. We come for Arya of House Stark. Cheers erupted from tall heart men. Jaime exhaled, tension draining like water from a breached dam. He sheathed Oathkeeper as Arya raced along shattered stair to greet the newcomers. He watched her embrace Meej, watched spearmen line the courtyard. All scarred women of Bear Island with axes strapped across backs. Snow swirled thick now, but his world felt clear. He turned his face up to falling flakes, savoring their bite. In that moment he understood that vows were not chains but keys, opening paths a man never foresaw. He would stay until Arya sat safe behind walls that held firm. Then perhaps he would seek Sansa, rumored widow in the Vale. Perhaps he would ride farther, to the Wall, to speak with Jon Snow of matters kings feared. Perhaps he would yet confront his father's legacy with steel unsheathed and conscience bare. But for now, winter welcomed him in, and he felt, for the first time in memory, almost home. Snow whispered across the courtyard like the hush of forgotten prayers, threading white veils through the tumbled stones of Winterfell's walls. A dawn the color of old iron seeped over the eastern horizon, but its faint glow did little to thaw the air or the hearts that waited beneath the weirwood's crimson canopy. Arya Stark stood at the edge of the great tree's shadow, leather jerkin laced tight beneath a borrowed bearskin cloak, gray eyes fixed on the woman who had knelt to swear her sword. Meej Mormont rose now, broad and weather-scarred, her voice a rumble that carried to the broken battlements and back. You have our axes, little wolf, until your enemies lie cold, or we do. A chorus of steel rang as 26 warriors of Bear Island crossed blades over their breasts. They were lean and hard, many gray-haired, all fierce as the seas that birthed them. Behind them the remnants of House Tallheart, 40 men in ill-matched mail, echoed the salute, their loyalty newly bound to Arya by oaths spoken over ash and grief. The young girl swallowed. Pride and responsibility warred inside her ribcage. Jaime Lannister watched from the Godswood archway, snowflakes melting in the lines beside his mouth. He thought he saw Ned Stark in Arya's stance, shoulders squared in the silence after vows, and wondered if ghosts truly walked this burned castle. The thought stirred unease. The Kingslayer had stood amidst hostages before, but never as witness to his own redemption. They gathered in the ruins of the Great Hall, where patched tarpaulins and swaying lanterns turned jagged masonry into makeshift walls. Meej spread a dog-eared map across a soot-scarred table, a north redrawn by war. Stag-antler tokens marked surviving Karstarks mustered south of the last river. Direwolf carvings, too few, showed Tallhearts, Glovers, and Scattered Hill clans resisting beyond Deepwood Motte. Flayed men crowded the center like bloody seeds. Bolton claims the Dreadfort, commands Moat Cailin, holds Barrowton and Torrhen Square, Meej said, tapping each point. Walder Frey garrisons the Twins. Ironborn still skulk along the S. Tony Shore, but their strength is cracked. And Winterfell? Arya asked, voice tight though she knew the answer. Meej glanced about the gutted hall. Yours, my lady, if you can keep it. We will, Arya said, fingers flexing on the table's edge. Jaime leaned over the map, one gloved hand bracing his wounded shoulder. Bolton will march the moment he learns you're here. Likely he already has ravens aloft. Let him come, growled Dorcas the Green, oldest of the Bear Women. Her one eye gleamed. We'll hang his pink banner from the broken tower. Jaime shook his head. Numbers win sieges, not ferocity alone. How many bowmen? How much grain? Winter is late but not blind. Karya Tallheart, thin as a spindle, answered, stores enough for a moon if we cut rations, 2 if we eat horseflesh. And arrows? He pressed. For score shaft sound. Karya's mouth twitched. Half again that with cracked knocks and warped fletchings we can straighten by firelight. Pausing, Jaime considered rough walls, collapsed gatehouse, and the yawning gaps in the inner curtain. Your defense rests on hope and broken stone. Hope is brittle. Stone unmortared crumbles. Meej's gaze hardened. Speak your remedy then, Lion. Not Lion, Oathkeeper, if words still weigh, he said. Ride west tonight. Strike the Dreadfort before Bolton musters. Remove the head and the flayed banners will lose heart. He pointed a dagger tip at the map. A swift column, 40 horse, silent in the snow, blades for throats, not walls. Horse, Dorcas spat. Our mounts are shaggy ponies half-starved and the tall heart nags limp. Riders will founder before they cross the white knife. Then take a wolf for guide, he countered, nodding to Arya. She knows these woods, these rivers, as lungs know air. Meej frowned. She is 14, small for it. I'm not small, Arya muttered. Our strength is here, Meej said. We hold Winterfell to rally the north. Strike out and we scatter. Risk all on one throw. Jaime tilted his head. You misunderstand me. I will ride on the Dreadfort with a spear of volunteers. You remain here, fortify, gather clans. When Bolton turns home to save his keep, your axes fall upon his rear. Silence settled like fresh frost. Arya's eyes sparkled. I go, she said. Meej's jaw clenched. You are our heart, girl. The North bleeds if its heart is lost. Arya touched the pommel of Needle, her small sword, newly returned by a Bear Island smith who'd found it in the ashes. A heart that hides is already lost. Meej studied her, then sighed. Very well. 10 of my best ride with you, plus 12 tall heart lancers. But swear you come back, child. Arya's smile flashed wolfish. I swear. Jaime released a breath he had not known he held. The company would be small, but surprise might serve where numbers failed. He traced the path across the map, feeling his pulse quicken at the familiar tingle of impending peril. That night Winterfell sparked to life. Smithies hammered worn blades sharp, Fletchers straightened shafts over coals. Women melted snow for tallow and boiled oats mixed with dried turnip leaves. The north breathed again, chest heaving despite ruin. Jaime walked the ramparts where new torches burned atop makeshift scaffolds. Stars shimmered above, clear between tatters of cloud, and for the first time since King's Landing, he felt the world stretch wide with possibility. They rode at dawn, hooves muffled in fresh snow, breath pluming before raw faces. Jaime wore a patched brigandine over mail and carried Oathkeeper slung across his back, its golden lion replaced by a simple leather grip wrapped tight to hide all glint. Arya led on a sure-footed mountain pony named Flint, too small for his weight but perfect for hers. She sat light, cloak whipped behind like a banner of dark wool. The bear women rode shaggy island mounts, short and broad of chest. Tall heart lancers followed on taller destriers, though most lacked proper barding. They followed game trails north along the King's Road's shattered twin, little more than ruts flanked by skeletal aspens. Jaime paced them to spare horses. Speed mattered less than silence. Every mile he marked cairns of charcoal where Bolton outriders had burned crofts. Every creek crossing he watched for snares or pit traps. Twice they found corpses lashed to trees, their skins stripped. The bear women cut them down, murmuring funeral words in the old tongue before setting pyres of spruce boughs. On the third evening they neared the White Knife Ford. Moonlight shimmered on black water swollen by melt, ice floes grinding against the banks. The ford stones, normally visible as pale humps, lay hidden beneath turbulent current. Jaime called a halt in the shadow of frost-slick boulders. We cannot cross here unseen, he said. Too much noise. You said swift, Arya reminded. He squinted downstream, where a line of fallen pines formed a natural dam. We build a footbridge, fell timber by moonlight, the quiet way. Cross at dawn, one by one, lead the horses. Meej grunted approval. Axes whispered, not rang, as trunks were notched and guided down with soft snaps of frozen turf. Hours later they slung saplings over the dam, lashing them with hide cords. Dawn painted the eastern clouds pink when the first bear woman stepped barefoot onto the crude span, spear for balance. The current hissed beneath, but she made the opposite bank and signaled. They ferried gear by rope, then horses. Jaime went last, muscles trembling from fever ache, but set foot on snow firm as prayer. He wiped ice crystals from his beard, motioned onward. North of the White Knife the land rolled like frozen waves, low hills scored by wind-shaped drifts. Here and their black spruces huddled, their silhouettes knife-thin. They rode westward, parallel to the Dreadfort Road yet unseen. By midday, the leading edge of a storm rose to meet them, purple belly heavy with snow, lightning flickering silent behind gauze cloud. Jaime urged greater pace. The cover of storm could mask their final approach. Toward dusk, they crested a ridge and saw the Dreadfort 5 miles off, ringed by twin walls of granite dark as dried blood. Torches dotted its parapets. Banners of the flayed man hung slack in windless air. South of the walls stretched the frozen weeping water, broad moat fed by hot springs whose steam drifted faintly through the cold. Jaime studied the scene. Roose takes comfort in old protections, he said, but the outer wall has a postern gate along the east curtain, undermanned in winter. How know you? Midge asked. I served King Robert's progress once, he answered. Not all tours are tourneys. Gate or blade? Dorcas muttered. Gate, Jaime said. Slip through, open the barbican. Let arrows fly inward, not out. Midge's eyes glinted. We draw them to the yard. Strike quick at the Lord's keep. Kill Bolton, Arya said quietly. End him. Snow began to fall, first sparks of storm. Jaime felt Oathkeeper's weight and wondered if it would carve out redemption this night. They tethered horses in a hollow beneath scrub oaks, where 2 green half-hidden by snow circles served as rally point. The company split. 15 would scale a sally port near the hot spring drain, break from within. 13 remained in reserve to exploit confusion. Jaime led the infiltration party. Arya insisted to join. He did not argue, though his gut nodded. They trudged through knee-deep drifts to the steam vents east of the walls. Sulphurous mist clung to fur cloaks, hiding shapes as the moon vanished behind storm cloud. At the base of the curtain wall, the postern gate loomed, a squat iron-bound door half sunk in ice. 2 sentries huddled under a tarcloth awning, pikes idle, faces ruddy with ale. Midge second, a willow-tall woman named Sorka, slipped behind one guard, blade cutting breath before sound. Jaime felled the other with the pommel of his dagger. Mercy for once. They propped bodies on barrels, cloaks around shoulders. The lock proved stubborn until Dorcas produced a twisted length of deer antler and wedged its tine into the hole. A soft clack and the door bowed inward. Jaime led them into a corridor rank with damp, glowstones flickering in iron sconces. They passed chambers where casks of pickled beets and salted beef lined shelves. Footsteps echoed distantly, patrol above. At a stairwell, Jaime signaled half the party to climb toward hallways connecting to the main yard. He and Arya descended instead, following warm drafts to the kennels. Roose kept hunting hounds bigger than ponies. Stories said they ate the livers of disloyal servants. If the dogs were loosed, surprise died. He found the kennel gate barred with a thick oak plank. From within came low growls. Arya pressed close. Quick, she whispered. He wedged a bit of suet, pilfered from the bear women's packs, between the palings. The dogs' growls rose, then muffled as they fought for the treat. Jaime drew needle-thin wire from belt and looped it round the bolt's iron eye, easing it free. The gate swung in. 15 pairs of eyes glowered, teeth white in lantern glow. One massive bitch lunged. Jaime tossed another chunk of suet down the corridor. The hounds tore after it, claws skittering on damp stone, then vanished round a corner where Dorcas waited with a sack of fine ground pepper. Angry yelps receded into darkness. With kennels emptied, the yard belonged to them. Jaime climbed a service stair and unlatched a sally hatch opening onto the inner wall. Midge's reserve force, waiting by signal arrow, would now slip across the moat. Shouts erupted above. Sorka's team engaged patrol. Jaime dashed into a passage lit by guttering torches, Arya stride for stride. 2 guards turned a corner, eyes wide. Arya ducked beneath a spear thrust, hamstrung one, plunged dagger into groin of other before Jaime raised sword. He stared at her, adrenaline singing. She wiped blade on the dead man's cloak. They reached an arched doorway overlooking the yard. Below, Sorka and bear women clashed with Bolton guards amid swirling snow and torch smoke. Midge's second horn call echoed, time to open outer gate. Jaime sprinted down a spiral stair to the winch chamber. A burly quartermaster lifted crossbow. Jaime bow-checked the bolt aside, pummel smashed into teeth. Arya darted behind to cut hamstrings. They heaved the timber lever. Counterweights clanked, chains rattled. The gate yawned wide. Meage's riders surged across the yard, axes raised, war cry of Mormont throats merging with tall heart bugles. Snow blew horizontal. Sparks rose where blades struck helms. Jaime led Arya through melee toward the keep's stone steps. A phalanx of Bolton household guard blocked way. 12 men in black iron and pink surcoats, shields rimmed with frost. Jaime slid to a halt, sword up. Arya crouched lithe as lynx. The captain sneered. "Kingslayer? Thought you died at Riverrun." His drawl thick with Dreadfort accent. "Try again," Jaime answered and launched forward. Oathkeeper met shield rim, sheared off edge. Arya darted right, slide stabbing between shield gaps. A guard shrieked, blood spraying snow. Battle tightened into blurs. Parry, riposte, foot skid, shield slam. Jaime's fevered shoulder burned, but strength held. One guard broke line. Jaime thrust, blade-piercing ringmail beneath arm. Another raised axe. Arya vaulted, slashed throat open. She landed light, breath fogging. Within heartbeats, the captain stood alone. He backed up the stair, tripped, fell. Jaime disarmed him, boot on breast. "Where is Roose Bolton?" "In hall feasting," the man wheezed. "Flayed Lord Hornwood yesterday, celebrating." Jaime's lip curled. He finished the man with mercy thrust, then bounded up steps 2 at a time. Arya beside him, eyes like storm. The great hall doors loomed ajar, crimson light pouring from within. They burst through, heat slapped them. Roaring hearth, spitted boar, wine reek. Roose Bolton sat at a long table with a dozen captains, cheeks flushed rare as fresh meat. For an instant all froze, then chaos. Captains leaped for swords. Jaime vaulted bench, hewing. Arya slid under table, stabbed ankles. Meage and Dorcas stormed from rear entrance, axes rising and falling. Bolton tried to rise, but a goblet spilled. Slicking his boots, he stumbled. Jaime vaulted, shoulder screaming, and tackled him against oak pillar. They crashed to floor in tangle of cloaks. Roose's dagger flashed. Jaime caught wrist, twisted. The blade clattered. Bolton's pale eyes narrowed. "You!" The word laced with cold recognition. "In the flesh," Jaime growled. He head-butted the man, dizzying both. Arya yanked Bolton's arm back, slicing hamstrings. The Lord howled. Jaime pressed blade to throat. "Yield," he thundered. "Order your men to lay down arms." Bolton's laugh gurgled. "Too late. The north is mine." Meage closed in, axe dripping. "Not while you draw breath, Flayer." She raised her weapon. Jaime's blade quivered. He looked to Arya. Her face shone with sweat, eyes wide. Vengeance and justice waged behind those eyes. Bolton coughed, spat blood-flecking snow-soothed rushes. Jaime spoke. "Let him face the wolf's law." He turned to Meage. "Bind him. Remove his standard, his sigil, his skin if you must. But do it under witness of the north, not rage in the dark." Meage hesitated, breath raspy. "He flayed my cousin, my liege. He carved the young wolf's heart. And he will answer," Jaime said, voice steady, "at Winterfell, under old God's eyes. Let the realm see justice done, not vengeance blind." Bolton rasped laughter again. Arya pressed dagger at his ear. "One word more and I cut out your tongue." The mirth died. Meage exhaled. "Bind him." Dorcas tore strips of Bolton's own pink cloak, lashed wrists tight. Sorka jammed cloth in mouth to silence curses. Outside, snow whipped in furious gusts. Bolton's banners sagged as Tallheart lancers doused torches and raised direwolves in their place. By dawn, the flayed man no longer flew above the Dreadfort, but lay trampled in blood slush at the gate. The march back to Winterfell began at noon. Prisoners, 40 in all, shuffled shackled behind an ox cart where Bolton lay trussed like hog. Jaime rode near Arya, both weary, but hearts beating fierce with improbable triumph. Riders fanned ahead to scout. As miles passed, the storm eased, clouds shredding to reveal a hard blue sky. 2 days south of the Dreadfort, they encountered a band of Karstark outriders bearing white sunburst banners stained with soot. Their young captain, Harrion Karstark's bastard brother Ira, halted ranks, recognized Arya, and knelt in snow. "My men obey House Stark," he vowed. "We ride with you." Strength swelled. At the ford where Jaime's log bridge still clung to life, Karstark riders formed rear guard. They crossed beneath pale sun and pressed on. Scouts returned nightly with tidings. Bolton garrisons elsewhere panicked, many fleeing south toward the Twins. Others barricaded in towers awaiting relief that would not come. On the 5th dusk, a tall Hart outrider galloped back, eyes bright. "An army marches from the neck," he cried. "Hill clans under Wool and Norrie, men of House Manderley, banners of Glover and Reed. They sing, 'The North remembers.'" Snow whirled as cheers erupted. Jaime glanced at Arya. Tears welled, turned to vapor in frigid wind. She dashed them away. "Home fights back," she whispered. That night, under a sky blazing with stars, Jaime sat alone midway between campfires, sharpening Oathkeeper. Meej approached, boots crunching frost. "You could leave now, Kingslayer," she said. "Your oath is kept. Arya lives." Bolton bound. She studied him. "Why stay?" He tested edge of blade with thumb. "I once swore to protect the weak. Broke that vow. Now I mend what shards I can." "A lion mending?" She barked quiet laughter. "Stranger things north of the wall." She sobered. "The girl trusts you." "I trust her," he answered. Meej nodded, as if this balanced ledger. She left him with blade and thoughts. He slept fitfully, dreamt of wildfire again, but when the green flames cleared, he saw only a red leaf on snow, bright as dawn. They approached Winterfell under banners multiplied threefold. Smoke from new forges rose above walls patched with raw pine timber. Atop the gatehouse fluttered direwolf beside bear, sunburst, merman, blazoned boar. The gate chains rattled. Wooden doors swung wide. Inside, clansmen lined the courtyard, roaring greeting. Sansa Stark stood upon the broken steps of the great keep, hair auburn flames in winter sun, cloak of gray trimmed white. Beside her, Lady Cybele Glover held a parchment. Howland Reed leaned on tall bronze spear. Sansa's face lit when she saw her sister. Arya slipped from saddle and ran. They collided hard, arms tight, tears spilled, laughter mixing. Jaime dismounted slowly, watching reunion through a haze he could not name. Hope, perhaps. Sansa met his gaze over Arya's shoulder and mouthed, "Thank you." He nodded once. Meej dragged Bolton before assembled lords. The Northmen jeered, spat. Some cried for flaying. Sansa raised a hand and silence rippled. Her voice carried strong. "My mother taught me justice must serve the living, not feed the dead. Roose Bolton will stand trial before high heart of the old gods. Let no man mar that right." Murmurs, then assent like wind in pines. Bolton, pale, sneered, "Girls play Queen of Ashes." No sooner spoken than Bran Stark wheeled forth from behind a pillar. Grown taller, cheeks hollow, eyes dream deep. A shaggy direwolf padded beside him. "No queen," Bran said softly, "but she carries our mother's will." He fixed Bolton with ancient gaze. "And the trees remember flayed men." Bolton blanched. For the first time fear cracked composure. That night, under flickering torchlight in the Godswood, Bolton knelt bound before the heart tree. Northmen gathered in a circle, faces washed by red leaf glow. Aron Nori read charges. Betrayal of guest right, murder of kin, aiding foreign invaders. Bolton offered no plea. When asked last words, he muttered, "My son will avenge." A howl cut him off. Grey wind? No, another wolf haunting the woods. Sentence given. Meej beheaded him with a single stroke, her axe singing through frosty air. Blood steamed on snow, soaking roots of weirwood. The crowd exhaled. Arya watched, hand in Sansa's. Tears again, but not of sorrow. Jaime stood apart, Oathkeeper grounded blade down, and felt a weight shift inside, like a door opening onto untrod path. Winterfell thrummed with rebirth. Blacksmiths hammered salvaged metal into spearheads. Carpenters roofed burned keeps with green sawn spruce. Women brewed ale, mended cloaks. Letters flew by Raven to White Harbor, the hill tribes, Bear Island, all bearing House Stark seal now pressed by Sansa. Manderly ships landed at White Harbor with grain and seasoned soldiers. The Karstarks swore anew to Winterfell after Ira revealed Alice Karstark's flight from Bolton Beds. Glover's men reclaimed Deepwood Motte. Reed marshfolk harried Fry convoys at the neck. The north healed like ice closing over cracked river, stronger for the freeze. But beyond the wall, a new dread stirred. Raven spoke of white shadows and a horn blown 3 times. Jon Snow, now Lord Commander, requested aid, but the realm's south scarcely heeded, embroiled in Lion's plots and dragon rumors. One crisp morning Jaime found Bran in the Godswood, eyes closed beneath the weirwood. He waited until Boy stirred. "You have journeyed far inside dreams," Jaime said. Bran's glance held centuries. "You too, Sir Jaime. Paths diverge, yet reach same tree." "I seek a road I have not walked," Jaime admitted. "Then leave sword," Bran whispered. "D. Carry heart instead." Jaime touched Oathkeeper's hilt. "Heart alone is poor shield, not if beats true." Later that day he climbed the repaired battlements with Arya. Wind knifed, but sun shone. She asked what he would do next. He gazed north where sky met endless snow. "Ride to the wall, perhaps. Speak with your brother. And then, I don't know, maybe fight for the living." She smiled crooked. "You're not so bad for a liar." He laughed, surprised by its ease. "Take care, wolf girl. You too, kings, know Oathkeeper." He touched her shoulder, then descended to the yard where a fresh horse waited, saddlebags packed with dried venison and new forged steel. Sansa approached, gifting a small wooden box. Inside lay a falcon badge, falcon over mountain, Lady of the Vale's token. "Wear it," she said softly. "Let the world see lions and wolfsbane can share cause." He pinned badge near heart. The women of Winterfell lined the gate to see him off. Meege with axe on shoulder, Dorcas smiling toothless, Karya Tallheart raising horn. Ira Karstark saluted. Bran watched from tower window, White Wolf at side. Snow started again, soft, steady. Jaime rode out the gate, hoofs crunching crisp crust, breath clouding ahead like promise. Behind him bells tolled low, Jon Wool's hillfolk forging steel on stone, or maybe heartbeats of a castle awake at last. The King's Road stretched white and silent. He spurred on, mind alight with vows. To warn the wall, to guard the living, to rewrite a name carved long ago in shadow. Far off, a raven wheeled against slate sky, its cry lost to wind. He rode until Winterfell's towers blurred into swirling flakes, until all the world was snow and soundless sky, and still he rode, a lone figure moving northward, toward a destiny neither lion nor wolf could claim alone.